Yo, what is up? This is the 5th installment of my fantasy schedule. Hopefully you guys watch to the end. Let's get this to at least like 50 likes, I guess. I don't know. That's the like goal, I guess. 50. Yeah, I'll see you at the end.
Coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Dexter's Laboratory.
Coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
The Superhero Squad Show.
coming up next,
Tenkai Knights.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next, Generator Rex.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Beyblade Metal Fusion.
coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next,
coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Ben 10 Alien Force.
coming up next,
Clarence.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
Teen Titans Go.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
More Teen Titans Go.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Powerpuff Girls.
coming up next,
Total Drama All-Stars.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
The Tom and Jerry Show.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Total Drama World Tour.
coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next,
coming up next,
The Amazing World of Gumball.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next,
coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up next,
Adventure Time.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
Regular Show.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
The Looney Tunes Show.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
Steven Universe.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next,
coming up on Cartoon Network,
Next. Check out what's coming up tonight on Cartoon Network.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next, Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Next, later,
On Cartoon Network.
next, later,
On Cartoon Network.
next, later,
On Cartoon Network.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Star Wars The Clone Wars.
later,
Thundercats.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Thundercats.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Young Justice.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up next,
Tenkai Knights.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
More Tenkai Knights.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up next,
Ben 10 Omniverse.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Thundercats.
coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up on Cartoon Network, next,
Generator Rex.
coming up next,
Ninjago, Masters of Spin Jitsu.
on Cartoon Network.
Next. Next.
Coming up next,
Legends of Chima.
on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network, next, coming up on Cartoon Network, next.
Thank you for making it to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let's get this video to at least like 50 likes. I'll be back on December 31st for the final video of the year, which is the 6th installment of the fantasy schedule. And hopefully you enjoyed. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you.
Yeah, I'm back and I'm banked up, ranked up. Diamonds dancing on me, had to do it for Lil Saint, bro. Battle of the bands, man, who really got their cake up. I don't fuck around with these niggas cause they